Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I please ask the members to introduce themselves, starting with far right.
Mike Lamoth, Board of Finance.
John Smith, Board of Finance.
Orlando Calfi, Board of Finance.
Mike Freeney, Board of Finance. Eric Chechowski, Board of Finance.
Ron Burns, Board of Finance.
Anthony Donato, City Council.
Jody Zills-Gagnon, City Council.
Cheryl Tebow, Board of Finance.
Calvin Brown, City Council.
Mary Fortier, City Council.
Jay Carrier, Board of Finance.
Dave Knowles, City Council.
Councilor Teresa Pack.
Assistant Dawn LaBella.
Mayor Kay Cuckey. Item number 1.
Approval of minutes of the regular joint board meeting on July 12th, 2016.
Move it. Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 2.
Is the consent calendar. There are 7 items. 2A is to make an additional appropriation of $1,339,000 within the Capital Projects Fund for the remediation of 894 Middle Street. 2B is to make a transfer of $50,468.79 for the Interdistrict Cooperative Program as of June 30th, 2016. 2C is to make an additional appropriation of $25,024 for the Quality Enhancement Program. 2D is to make an additional appropriation of $2,900,052 for the School Readiness Program. 2E is to make an additional appropriation of $5,700 for the Grandparents as Parents Program. And 2F is to make an additional appropriation of $530 funded by the Good Cell Trust as of June 30th, 2016. And last but not least, 2G is to make a decrease in appropriation of $1,532 within the Parks Department as of June 30th, 2016.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 3.
To make an additional appropriation of $121,000 for the Frederick Street Sanitary Sewer Replacement, funded by WPC Capital Non-Recurring Undesignated Fund Balance.
Approval. Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 4.
To transfer $16,500 from the General Fund Contingency Account to Operating Transfers Out Special Revenue.
Move it. Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 5.
To make an additional appropriation of $16,500 within the Special Grants and Donations Fund, funded by an operating transfer in General Fund.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 7.
6, to transfer $667,050 from the Contractual Obligations Account to various police department salary accounts for negotiated salary increases. So moved.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 7.
Is the monthly revenue and expense report by the children.
Good evening, Mayor and joint board members. It's not too much to report as far as financially speaking in the city. Everything's going along fine. Collection rates are doing fine. Our revenues are fine. Expenditures are going along the normal percentage for summertime. But we do have one auspicious occasion that we can celebrate this evening. You may recall during the budget process, as far as the transition in my office goes, we initiated a certified public finance officer's examination for Robin Manuel. I had that 15 years ago. It's a 5-part examination that certifies finance officers across the country. It's on a national level to become certified, 5-part exam. Robin did complete the first exam for capital budgeting a year ago at this time approximately, and it's good timing because we are going to be dealing with obviously a capital budgeting. But more recently, she just passed the debt service examination. And obviously, once again, timing is great since we're going to go out with one of the larger issuances. I passed the exam, but it's old news. It's 15 years ago. But she's passed is more current and relevant, and I'd like to congratulate her on that. There are 3 more exams to go. Risk management, investments, purchasing, and basic accounting. So she's taking 1 a year or so, and we'll swim about a year and a half or so. She'll be a certified public finance officer. Other than that, I really have nothing to report. Hi, John.
Any questions?
You can only take one.
You could take two, but the problem is, and I discussed this with her, is that there's one in the spring, one in the fall. She just took it this past late spring. But in the fall, we have the auditors in.
No, I just wonder what.
Oh, no, you can. You can take two. It's done on each state and also on a national level at the conference. If you go to the national conference, that's why I did it. But she's taken it in Connecticut with just a few other students. Tough exam, but timing is perfect. Now she's got capital budgeting under her belt, and it's related to debt service, so it's perfect, and it's more relevant than when I took it because there's a lot of current updates that have occurred. So really, really happy for her. That's
Any
it,
other
Mayor.
questions? Thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome.
Any other business? Chairwoman?
Congratulations, Robin. That is such an exciting topic as well, debt management. The other ones sound more exciting, though. You know, if you're an accountant, you get it. But Mr. Mayor, joint board, I just wanted to share something, and I had sent an email out to the Board of Finance last Friday, and I know that other people have, heard about this, but I wanted to share and give an update. And I know at past meetings, we've asked for updates on the Memorial Boulevard project. But I'm going to just actually read the email because it would be easier, so please excuse that. The purpose of this email is not for discussion purpose, as discussion back and forth is a violation of FOIA, so I started with rules, of course. But since I don't particularly like surprises, I wanted to share this with you now so you have time to think about this. Earlier this week, members of the newly formed MBS board, excuse me, not the official name, met with the mayor to provide an update. He asked if I'd be willing to participate, and I did so by phone. One of their asks was for the city to commit to the additional $5.6 million necessary for Phase 1 completion in order to stay on schedule to go out to bid in early 2007. As you're aware, there was a very robust discussion, 2017, excuse me. As you're aware, there was a very robust discussion on this matter during the budget session, especially in the 10-year CIP committee meeting. The outcome of the meeting was a budget of $5 million. The balance of the phase was expected to be raised from the other outside sources by the nonprofit board. The budget was then approved by the Board of Finance and Joint Board. As it was already an item on the budget, the authority to increase can come directly from the Board of Finance without going back to CIP, of course, then forward to Joint Board. I'm just going to stop reading there and I'll go. I just want to add a little bit here that when this project was originally presented at the conclusion, and it was a very dynamic group, almost 2 years working feverishly to really look at that building. And the idea of a cultural center is dynamic and exciting. And I myself was a member of that committee, and I still am excited about it. And the concerts proved there was an appetite for this. But at the time that we came out of that session, the Phase 1 appeared to be hovering around the $7 million mark. When we were talking budgets, it was approaching $10 million. And as of last week, we're now over the $11 million mark, or close to the $11 million mark. The architectural designs are not final yet. It has not gone out to bid. So this is huge. This is huge. And the view at the time, or at least my personal view, was that there needs to be a partnership and that the nonprofit should have some in this. And I believe the $5 million was what the board at the time felt was fair in the committees and so forth. Because they've come to this ask, I am not prepared to go beyond what is already approved, but I have asked for this to be put on the agenda for the next Board of Finance meeting so that we can talk about it. It might be important for the Boulevard Committee to make a presentation, but at this point, because the Board of Finance's task is to safeguard the assets of the city, to guard the checkbook, to protect the taxpayers, I'm not sure I would feel better knowing that the taxpayers were 100 behind this, and I'm proposing to the council that we consider this to be put out for referendum if we're going to approve more money on this project. It's a huge nut to swallow. It's a lot of money, and it had a shaky financial performer. So investing this money doesn't guarantee the financial success, although there's some great people involved in it, and I know they're going to put their heart and soul into it. I just wanted to bring that up because I feel I would be remiss if I did not share my thoughts and let you know what will be an item of discussion on the next Board of Finance meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion?
Just for a second.
Go ahead.
If we're going to have this presented to us, which I think is a good idea, by the way, if we're going to have this presented to us, I think in light of the long-running history that we've had with the school, and now we're looking to go forward considerably longer, it may help in the referendum if we know what kind of revenues maybe this city could look to bring in from something like this, maybe an ongoing concert series or something like that. Because I think if there's some sort of appreciable revenues that we can see, maybe it'll be a little easier to swallow a bigger nut.
Well, from what I understand, Mike, is the revenues would be belong to the nonprofit. Okay.
Okay.
So
all the revenues.
there was an item 3 where they also were looking, and this is an MOU, it's a draft MOU. It's not final, but it was a big ask. Item number 3 was to try to see if the city could contribute to the operations side. We didn't get to item 3 because item 2 just was kind of staggering. And I just feel at this point, I would like to know that the taxpayers fully are behind an $11 million or approaching over an $11 million project, and would be comfortable with that before I go forward. But and we have not asked the committee to come forward. I'm bringing it up. I emailed you because you're the committee that I chair, and so I just wanted to bring everybody into the loop because I don't like surprises.
I have a question through the chair. Cheryl, are you envisioning that we do something about this referendum issue at council this evening? Or are you again just discussing it, and perhaps after finance board meets and talks about it, you would then formally ask council to make that a referendum item?
Well, I wouldn't expect you to make a decision tonight. You're just being, we were just, got this information last week. So it's all new and it's not final and it's not a signed agreement. But it is a huge item. And I have to tell you, I've had taxpayers tell me both ways. The Board of Finance does not have the authority to call a referendum. But I'm asking you to consider that, because if the Board of Finance chooses not to put any more money towards this project, it stays at the $5 million.
I understand. I want to be clear, this is a non-binding referendum, right? We don't have any provision for an actual referendum that would be...
That's correct. It would be a non-binding referendum that the council would vote to put on the ballot, but it would give us and I do support this, by the way. I've always supported referendum on big ticket items, and I think it would give us, as the policymakers and decision makers, a flavor of what the community is willing to swallow. This additional $5.4 million that they're asking for, 5.6, whatever it was, is nearly 2 mils. So that's a big number.
Okay, and I have one other question. What is the deadline for getting something on the November ballot? I would think that we're approaching that.
You are. You're probably weeks away from my having to notify the Secretary of State of anything that goes on the November ballot.
So it would have to be some sort of special meeting before our September meeting, probably.
Comment?
Likely. There may be other issues, too, as to how we go about, because the way referenda is written in our charter is not like it is in other towns. So Corp Council may have more information with respect to the council just putting something up for a referenda that normally is a question that goes through charter revision. Most of our questions that go on the ballot either go through charter revision or are presented to us from the state.
Okay, thank you.
Just a couple of thoughts. First of all, I don't think the building committee, which is charged with the renovation of this building, has made a request for any additional funds, number one. In fact, we had a meeting last night, and we didn't even discuss it. The chairman of the building committee is here. Secondly, last 2 or 3 years, we have spent, let's see, Muzzy Field, 2 new athletic fields at one at each high school, Muzzy Field, 2 new schools, all of these things, no referendum mentioned. We spent a significant amount of time at the Capital Improvement Committee meeting discussing this project, also at the Board of Finance, no referendum mentioned. I just don't think we can pick and choose which ones we want to send to referendum. If we want to have referendums over a certain amount of money for major projects, let's change the charter. The charter hasn't been changed, and the way I read the charter is, I don't think the council has the authority to do a referendum. I think you have to get some signatures from somebody. Not that it's a bad thing, but we have, again, from what I read, we have a representative form of government in this city. I vote for council people to make decisions on my behalf. We don't have a town meeting form of government. We don't have a charter provision that says any project over a certain amount of money has to go to referendum. We don't have that. So I would think it's more appropriate to have Marie O'Brien's committee, the nonprofit board, and Frank Stosky's committee make a detailed presentation at the next Board of Finance meeting, and then you can react to the fact if they ask for money or if they don't. Because at this point, the building committee, which is charged with renovating that project, the building committee is charged with the $5 million, not the BIDC, or whatever the name of that group is. The building committee is charged with that, and it has not asked for any additional funds at all.
Well, then they were physically there, so...
No, they weren't.
No, I'm saying they were at a meeting last week.
Frank Stosky was not at that
Not
meeting.
Frank, but the Marie O'Brien.
Right, she's not on the building committee, so.
Okay. Well, somebody's put an ask out for the 5.4, but regardless, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can you go out to bid unless you have funding secured?
No, because you can't sign a contract.
Okay.
You cannot sign a contract unless there are funds in place.
And what is your timeline to go out to bid?
Well, the original timeline was hopefully to go out to bid in early 2017, so you take advantage of the bidding climate. If you don't have the funds, then you can't do that. At least I would recommend you don't do that, because it costs contractors money to bid a project. If you get low bids and someone says, okay, we want to sign a contract, and you don't have funds, you cannot sign a contract. So that, the other side of that is, if we continue to delay this, and the project does not come to fruition, we have spent, I'm not sure how much to date on the architect and engineering fees, but we have spent money, and I don't want to continue to spend good money after bad if in fact we're not going to bring this project to fruition. So all the more important, it seems to me, to have Frank's group and Marie's group make a detailed presentation to the joint board, actually, maybe not just the board of finance, the joint board, so that everybody has a clear understanding of where it is, where they want to go, and then we can make an informed decision as opposed to making a decision based upon a conversation that Marie and company, as I understand it, had with the mayor and with you. And again, I don't believe they have the authority to ask for any additional funds because they're not the agency that's charged with the renovation of that building.
Can I ask
Through the
you?
chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
May I, if you don't mind?
You may.
I just want to quickly second Mr. Smith's idea. I would strongly be in favor of the building committee and Ms. O'Brien's committee coming before the joint board and giving a detailed presentation. I think that sort of honors the process of all of this a little better, and that's probably a better way for us all to make an informed decision on what to do next. So I just wanted to second that point from Mr. Smith.
I would just like to say that I would like to honor the taxpayers who felt they were getting into a $7 million investment, that it has now mushroomed to almost 12, that there's a problem with that as well. And so whether that project gets, I don't know the answer. And that's why it's a huge investment. And yes, I love the boulevard, but are all our taxpayers ready to go on board with this kind of investment? And yes, we spend money on other things, but a lot of them are, properties and buildings we already have. This is a building, and let alone the value of the building, that will be eventually turned over to a nonprofit. And I think that it's a totally different animal, and I just, I just feel my role is to protect the taxpayer, and so I will vocally speak this way.
No, Cheryl, you raised some very valid points through the mayor, some very valid points, and again, I think all of those questions, answers would be forthcoming if in fact Marie and Frank made a collective presentation so that we all can ask, because you're right. I mean, I'm not sure I ever thought it was a $7 million project, but having a great deal of familiarity with that building, since I happened to go to school there, and then I taught there, and then it was part of my purview when I was still over at the school system. One of the major issues of that building is the infrastructure. And I remember, frankly, somebody wanted to buy it, and they were going to spend $2 million to renovate the whole building. The mechanical side alone, just the mechanicals, are in excess, well in excess of that. And you can't do anything without the mechanical side. You just can't. And then you have the theater, and then you have something else. So, and the revenue side is an important package as well. So, again, I think Marie and Frank make a joint, maybe a special meeting, just to hear all of the conversations that have had, along with the architect. And maybe it needs a special, because I think it's probably going to take at least 2 or 3 hours to really do it justice, frankly.
Oh, it would definitely be good if they're on the same page before one group comes seeking additional funds with an MOU.
Just one question for clarification. So Marie's group for the boulevard is associated with the nonprofit, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Frank's group is the building committee, which is part of the city organization. Wouldn't Marie be approaching the donation committee as other nonprofits do, as opposed to coming forward for the city money? And wouldn't that be separate from the building committee? So aren't we mixing here?
I think it's just its own little animal, to be honest with you, Orlando. It's not, we still own that building. It's a big difference. So.
Yeah, this doesn't fall under the review of the donations.
Any other discussion on this? Motion to adjourn? Motion made, seconded, discussion. All in favor, aye. Opposed, motion passes. Council meeting start in 5 minutes.